So we're continuing on with the Don't Believe the Hype series. Now what I want to bring forth is a general concept that I've heard mentioned in osteopathy as a general profession, with more specific mention within the varying divisions of osteopathy in the cranial field, or cranial osteopathy, or cranial sacral therapy, however you want to approach this. My challenge generally, or not necessarily my challenge, but my aim here is to highlight a concept that I've seen presented that becomes a problem simply because people are not necessarily understanding the concept in its original context, the amount of accuracy in its original context, and then they're trying to translate it somewhere else to use it to show why what they do works, or why they think what they do works. This goes along a line, at least with the point that I'm trying to make, of how people in the osteopathic profession, and this is more so from personal interaction with professional colleagues of varying backgrounds, right? So osteopathic professionals from varying parts of the world, osteopathic professionals from different viewpoints than I hold. There's this really interesting interface that I see in discussion, not necessarily written, but at least in discussion, even sometimes in written discussions on forums, where there's essentially this idea that, science isn't proving osteopathy, or, the level of evidence that we want to prove osteopathy is doing what it says it does is too high. You can't measure osteopathy properly because it's an art, not a science. There's a lot of these concepts that I hear thrown around, and then what I end up seeing is, when it is somewhat advantageous in the individual's view, they say, see, science, right? There's very, in my experience, low levels of appropriate approach to the scientific method in those that I've interacted with. This is not a blanket statement. There's some people that I've had fantastic interactions with within osteopathy who have been very good at presenting themselves and their positions, essentially with an appropriate level of uncertainty, right? There isn't enough information available as evidence to make us extremely confident and extremely firm in certain types of statements, and they will present that, and I've had great experiences there. But I've also had experiences whereby, I have this feeling that I want to basically say to somebody, I want to look at them and say, it really seems like you have a strange view of science. Could you possibly, it's like I want to pick up a doll and say, on this doll, could you show me where the bad scientist hurt you? Because we just get this discussion that goes on, and sometimes it's like, yeah, see, science proved what I said. And then other times, well, science can't prove osteopathy because it's an art, not a science. I just have all kinds of issues with this. My central contention with respect to osteopathy is that we seem to produce fairly controllable, fairly consistent results. However, depending on the claim that we make, we can very easily be proven wrong as to why it's working. So what I would put forth is that I am completely fine with the level of uncertainty that surrounds explanations for the way that I obtain results with my patients. I advocate a very consistent approach, at least diagnostically, and then a very consistent approach with respect to treatment subsequent to what my diagnosis would show me, or my diagnostic process. So I have a consistent approach, and I get fairly consistent outcomes. There's an array of outcomes. They're not always what myself or the patient are looking for, but they're fairly consistent. I'm okay with that uncertainty. I think it would benefit other people if they were okay with the uncertainty, but I can't tell you what to do. I can go forth and build my case. Now, the phenomena that I want to talk about here after all that kind of preamble is the concept of quantum physics. Now, what I have pulled up first, and you may not see this particularly well, right? I'll try to zoom in and maybe it'll show up okay, maybe it won't. But benchmarks for training in osteopathy. This is a WHO document that was put forth as part of a larger project for essentially curricular guidance from the WHO for complementary and alternative healthcare practices. So there's documents like this for acupuncture, I believe. I don't know if it's traditional Chinese medicine as a unit, but at least acupuncture and some other things. Some people like to point to this document as a guide to back them up in the way that they approach the education of osteopathic professionals outside of America, so essentially hands-on only professionals. Whether or not it's the best document isn't really the question here. I'm just telling you that people use this document essentially to back them up. They use it as a backstop for claims that they make. Again, I'm not arguing for the validity of this document as a good document. I'm saying that people use it. Now, within this document is a long list of curricular content and contact hours. So how many hours it is suggested you spend on a specific topic. As far as healthcare education is concerned, or medical education, most medical education or healthcare education is moving to a competency-based model. So you're removing the idea of specific contact hours as the dominant driver. Just because you've seen something or been exposed to something for a certain amount of hours doesn't mean you have any competence in it. So they're moving more towards a competency-based model. Competency-based models have their own challenges. How do you identify competency? Is competency a low level? Is it an expert level? How do you do that? How do you assess it? These are things that are in process. This is the area, or a part of the area, that my master's work is in as far as healthcare education is concerned, or health science education. So my familiarity with the idea of competency, or competency by design, or competency-based medical education is building. It's not perfect, but I know that it is the way that the professions, all healthcare professions, are moving. Osteopathy in America, so the physician training for doctors of osteopathy, is moving in a competency by design direction. So just so you also have that information, because I have it and I may as well share it. And that also suggests that this document may not be doing all that it intends to do. It was created at a time where maybe the people who created it didn't understand the developments of competency by design. I believe this was done in 2011, and that competency-based medical education had already been on the rise. There was already a lot of research done on it, but this document advocates for contact hours. Now what I'm going to do, I have my search bar up here, and I'm going to put in the term physics to search. And it didn't work right, so here I'll do it again. Physics. My result says 0 of 0. You can do this yourself. World Health Organization benchmarks for training in osteopathy. Search the term physics. Nothing shows up. Now I will pull up the term quantum. Nothing shows up. My aim in doing this and showing this search to you and showing you what I'm doing here and how I'm doing it is to show you that, at least on the suggestion of this World Health Organization document, quantum physics is not part of the suggested osteopathic curriculum. So I have a hard time with people in osteopathy suggesting that they're going to appropriately understand quantum physics. Is that to say that people who are in osteopathy haven't had appropriate training in physics prior to being in osteopathy? No. Is it to say that people who are in osteopathy cannot go and investigate quantum physics by reading primary source research and gain a good understanding? No, you can do that. I don't think that I'm encountering these people when they are making claims about cranial osteopathy. Maybe I am, and maybe I'm missing information, but that does not seem to be the case. That is not how they present, or that is not part of what comes out in conversation. Now, to show you that this is something that is written about, I will pull up other research documents. Okay, so this paper, I have to roll up quite high, the biodynamic model of osteopathy in the cranial field. This is in the Explore, the Journal of Science and Healing, from February 2005. This is in a peer-reviewed journal. Okay, there are varying levels of entry and peer review in peer-reviewed journals. There are challenges with the peer review process. It is not perfect. It is a process that exists. It is not perfect. So to say simply that something's in a peer-reviewed journal does not say that it is methodologically sound. It does not say that the research was performed appropriately. It doesn't say that the results or the conclusions are appropriate, but it does say that it's in a peer-reviewed journal, right? So you gotta know what it does imply and what it doesn't imply. Just because it's in a journal doesn't make it gospel. If you assess the paper itself, you can come to conclusions based on methodology, conclusions, results. You can do that, and then regardless of the journal, you can improve or decrease your level of confidence in what the paper says. I am not assessing this paper, I'm showing that the word quantum physics shows up, or the concept of quantum physics. So we go down to the bottom of the paper, or into the body of the paper rather, and I'll try to scroll or zoom in here, and we get essentially a few paragraphs where it's talking about physics, okay? I do not know if the individuals who wrote this paper have prior training in physics, I'm not sure, but we get a statement such as Newtonian physics has undergone a paradigm shift to quantum physics, thanks to relativistic studies addressing subatomic phenomena and consciousness. Okay, fair enough statement. It is not properly resourced. They're not taking this from another paper. This is a statement where if you're going to make it, you want to back that up with evidence, so you would want, ideally, to provide references for this. Who else is saying this that is studying quantum physics? Because the person here is not the one studying quantum physics. They're adding this in, so you would want to identify evidence. That's not done. It doesn't mean that it's incorrect. It means it's not done. Still's writings suggest he had undergone a quantum paradigm shift. So again, a suggestion with no evidence provided. This is somebody reporting on what they think they read in Dr. Still's writings. It is not properly referenced. He knew intuitively that healing events in his patients happen at the subatomic level, but he did not have the words of the concepts of quantum physics to draw upon to express the transformation he was experiencing in his treatments. Instead, he ascribed them to health, to God, or divine nature at work, or the return to health. Sorry for misreading that sentence. Again, not properly referenced. You're making some inferential leaps here. I want you to see, as I said previously, I wasn't necessarily going to assess the quality of these statements, but I've gone ahead and done that, so I didn't stick to the way that I was trying to do this. And this is me trying to model behavior. So I didn't say I was going to do this, or I said I wasn't going to do it, and now I'm doing it. But part of it is just to help you understand when you're reading this some of the reasons this becomes more challenging. So quantum physics, it's here in a paper about the biodynamic model of cranial osteopathy. They're including this, right? Sutherland's breath of life or BOL exhibits characteristics that can only be explained by quantum theory, e.g. the theory of implicate order by Bohm. The Bohl breath of life transubstantiates into primary respiration a force field, or a field force that generates a spatial orientation, right? So they're going in, and what they're doing is they're making an inferential leap, saying, Sullivan said this, and the only way it can be explained is with quantum physics. That is an inferential leap that is inappropriate. Again, you're seeing that there are problems with the way that this is stated, and you're seeing that it is stated, okay? Moving on to another paper. Now, this paper is not a research paper. This is essentially a commentary based on prior research. This is somebody who works at a college of osteopathy in America. I'm going to read this, right, so that you have some insight. And some of you may be engaging in this behavior that's described here. Some of you may be encountering this behavior. This is something that I have encountered, so I have a bias towards liking it. It doesn't mean it's correct. It means I have a bias towards liking it, okay? Now this paper, I don't have to scroll all the way back because the title's up here. You can't see it as well, but Cranial Osteopathy, its fate seems clear. The journal, I can't properly tell you the title because it's abbreviated here, but it's from 2006. Well, so the title of the paragraph here, I'll try to zoom in a little bit better, and it's gonna mess with me a bit here, just because of the way this is done. Okay, so it says, the end. Well, it should be, yeah, this isn't gonna work the way I want it to, so I'm going to take this another way, and there it goes again. So, just to get here. So it's the end. Well, it should be, but it's not. The therapeutic administrations of many cranial practitioners derive directly from the now invalidated anomalous primary respiratory mechanism. This means that up-to-date practitioners no longer have even the imaginary biology of Sutherland's mechanism to explain what they do or why they believe it works. Some clinicians of my own College of Osteopathic Medicine disavow intellectual allegiance to the mechanism, but cling to it as a teaching metaphor because they otherwise... I'll stop trying to highlight this because it's going to mess with my reading. They cling to it as a teaching metaphor because they otherwise lack even this failed biological device to unify and explain their diagnostic and therapeutic propositions. Some counter criticisms by changing the subject to the perceived array of poorly understood conventional treatments. Many deflect criticism by focusing instead on their perceived but scientifically almost meaningless personal clinical success. Many practitioners around the world disown Sutherland's biology-based mechanism altogether or were trained in a somewhat different model and instead engage objectively immeasurable body energies, quantum mechanics, vitalism, or God. And this is reasonably well cited. So for everything this individual is saying in their commentary, this isn't a research paper, it's commentary, they're citing research papers that have people talking about cranial osteopathy and engaging these mechanisms, such as quantum mechanics. Okay? We look to another paper, and this is an actual paper that is essentially a very long overview of what's going on with the merging or the meeting point of quantum physics and biology. There is some suggestion that there are some senses in the human body that, and not just senses, but essentially physiological processes that are influenced by quantum phenomena. Here, before I get into this and before I kind of show you where this body of work stands, at least in 2011 when this was brought out, was this 2011? 2010, sorry, my apologies, this came out in 2010. So we're 10 years on from where this is, so there may be some updated understanding. I will freely admit that. This is something that I found as a general overview of the meeting point of these two concepts, so quantum mechanics or quantum phenomena in biology. What I want to say before I even do this, is it possible that humans are interfacing with quantum phenomena? It's almost impossible that we're not, okay? On the experimental level, there has been a reasonable amount of things shown on varying degrees that under certain experimental circumstances, there are quantum phenomena. Okay, do I understand them extremely well? No. I know that they've been demonstrated and that they are occurring on some level throughout the known universe. How often are they occurring? I don't know. How prevalent are they? I don't know. Okay, but I know that they exist. So it's almost impossible that humans are not, at least in some way, interfacing with quantum phenomena. That said, we do not seem to be able to accurately identify them with our perception. We do not seem to be accurately able to identify them without very strict experimental circumstances that require a lot of prior knowledge and engineering, and we do not seem to be able to control them. So, that said, if we are, I will give you this, I will help you build this argument as you are watching. If we are, and this is more of a philosophical argument than anything else, if quantum phenomena are occurring all the time and humans are interfacing with them, it's already happening. They are already impacting us in everything we do. Should any of this be true, should this line of reasoning follow, that they're already happening, we're already interfacing with them, our ability to be conscious of them is essentially non-existent, therefore focusing on them to change our behavior doesn't help. So if quantum mechanics are truly impacting biology, there's nothing I can do about it. And whatever I can do about it is on a level that I can't sense the quantum. It is on a level that I can sense essentially the classical mechanical world, more of the Newtonian mechanical world. Is my understanding of Newtonian mechanics complete? Is it even high level? No. But I have at least a base level understanding that the majority of human senses seem to relate much more to the Newtonian physical model, the Newtonian model of physics. Again, I'm telling you that I am not very deep in my understanding of these things. but I have interfaced with them enough to understand that the majority of our experience is much more on the Newtonian side than on the quantum side. So again, are we interfacing with quantum mechanics, quantum phenomena? Sure. It's not going to change my behavior. It's not going to change what I do. So that line of investigation is only useful for curiosity. It's not useful for clinical direction or clinical outcome. So you can make of that what you will. We go into this, okay, come down to what I've highlighted, and this is just a nice succinct conclusion. So it talks about some physiological processes, I believe ATP and ADP, quantum tunneling, so a phenomenon where molecules are able to kind of tunnel, so instead of passing through known mechanisms, they just kind of bypass all of it. That's my general understanding. Whether I'm perfect on that or not is questionable. Okay, come down, and I missed it. I know I missed it. Here we go. So also talking about the sense of smell, there is something to suggest that the sense of smell may, or olfaction, may have some element of quantum phenomena, but a nice concluding line here, right, and I'll bring this over so it's a little bit more visible, hopefully. Concluding, we see that quantum tunneling is certainly present in a large number of biological processes, but experimentally proven only on the small scale chemical reaction, or on the level of small scale chemical reactions. So, are there quantum phenomena that seem to be experimentally identified in biology? Yes. Is it noted on the macro scale, at least as of 2010? No. So again, sure it's there. Sure people who understand quantum mechanics, quantum phenomena, physics, biology on a level that they're able to combine these two and create an experiment, they're saying it's there. But not on the level that we can perceive it or that it would change our behavior. So, all that said, there is a fairly visible line of argument that a lot of people will go through to defend their model. They will say that science can't prove it, the level of evidence that somebody wants is unattainable, and then when somebody actually investigates it, that is an acceptable investigator with the scientific method, and they say, no, your claim, in the bounds that you've made the claim, is untrue. Again, it doesn't mean that something isn't happening. It just means that the thing that you're saying is happening is not happening. But they go down these lines and then they all of a sudden throw quantum mechanics out. Osteopathic practitioners are not trained in physics unless they have a prior background or a subsequent background. They do not understand quantum physics, again, unless they have a prior background or a subsequent background, but they'd have to prove that to you. And it isn't even part of osteopathic curriculum on any level. Might it be mentioned in some osteopathic schools? Sure. It's not part of the central or suggested curriculum. So, to my osteopathic colleagues, please understand that a lot of the explanations that are provided are not up to snuff. I'm building the case that these explanations are not up to snuff. Now, does that mean that you're not getting results? Nope, you're getting results. Does it mean that the results you think you're getting are the results you're getting? No. But you are getting results, and you're probably consistent because the type of feedback that you're getting is consistent. So, we get to this concept of, well, this is the way that I was taught. This is what I was taught, and this is how I understand it, so I am free to continue saying this. This brings up the concept of freedom of speech. Okay? My father was from Detroit. My father was American. This is only to say that I philosophically am very, very in tune with the central concept of freedom of speech and how much it can inform a culture. Okay? The problem that often happens when people rely or lean into freedom of speech, I am free to say this, is that they're forgetting the other half of this equation. Freedom of speech exists, but not free of responsibility for normal outcomes for your speech. So if you are out there as an osteopathic practitioner or a manual therapeutic practitioner of any other kind, and you're providing dubious explanations to colleagues, to students, or to patients, you are responsible for the fact that you are not up to date. You are responsible for the fact that what you're saying is inaccurate, that your claims are not acceptable. you are responsible for making the rest of us look silly by association with you. We're all on the same team. My suggestion, my hope, is that instead of clinging to dubious mechanistic statements and mechanistic explanations, what you do is you say, and I'm not telling you you have to do this, I'm saying I would hope that you would do this, or find another way to go along the same lines of this thought. Simply say, I understand the uncertainty in a lot of the things that I'm doing. I understand the inability, or not necessarily the inability, the current level of evidence for the claims made by professionals within osteopathy is not acceptable. We don't have good evidence for why what we do works. However, we do have a consistent approach that provides consistent results. Why does it work? I don't know. It's completely fine to say I don't know. If you pass yourself up with a firm statement as to this is why it works, and then somebody takes that who's less educated than you, and they turn that into essentially a psychological neurosis, or you tell people that disinfectant of some kind can kill a virus, and then the result of that is people injecting disinfectant or ingesting disinfectant, you're responsible for that. Please consider moving to I don't know. It's not a problem. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less of an authority. Sometimes it makes you more of an authority because you're so authoritative. You know that people don't know. You know that people that are actively investigating what you do can't figure it out. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to, again, go back to the general suggestion to everybody watching, don't believe the hype. And I'm going to make a further suggestion to manual therapeutic practitioners of all types, stop spreading the hype.